Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm recording this video today as much for my own purposes as hopefully to be helpful to others as well. And I think the video is probably going to be entitled how to create your highest and most benign timeline. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, from what I can see, we're always on a timeline of creation, a timeline that is governed by the paradigms that we've accepted. And what I mean by that is we're all living in different paradigms, right? That generally has been conditioned into us, whether it's by the world we live in, our families, whatever else. And what looks possible to us is limited by the paradigms that we've accepted to be true, right? Now, I was watching something that I sometimes do at night time, and it was one of these YouTube videos of these guys that have basically bought a car that has been written off, to all intents and purposes should be going to the scrap yard, and these guys go and buy it up and fix it basically. And there was this guy coming to the end of a 6-month project, and the car was starting to look really good and should have seen it at the beginning. And I was like, wow, isn't this a great example of what I'm trying to share here? Like in the paradigm of, getting your car fixed by a garage, keeping the warranty intact, buying all the parts from a main dealer, getting an insurance company to pay for the damage to a car. Well, in the paradigm of that car was a wreck, was going to be scrapped. But in the paradigm of the YouTuber who is going to earn his living from sponsors, from people watching his video, who's willing to learn how to fix things himself and pick up a wrench and, buy parts from maybe scrap yards or from other places other than a main dealer, that car was fixable, right? So hopefully you're starting to get a sense. Like the only thing that it looks like is limiting us is the paradigms that we've accepted to be true. And we're doing this everywhere in our life. We're doing it with our work. We're doing it with our health. We're doing it with everything. Everywhere we are feeling limited by, we're not actually limited by anything other from what I can see than the paradigms that we've accepted to be true. And as I look back in my life, like when I had my chronic health condition and I had chronic fatigue, and I was basically told, look, nobody gets better from this. Once you get to a certain stage, that's it for life. Well, that was a paradigm, and I was willing to look towards a different paradigm, one where I wasn't going to have that for the rest of my life, one where I was not going to be limited by it. And by being willing to look in that direction, I was able to create a different timeline. And so as I've faced a lot of situations like that recently, where I felt like I was trapped, where I felt like I needed, that things were going in a bad direction, I've come back to remembering, what is it to create the highest and most benign timeline? Well, we've got to be willing to wake up to the fact that what is limiting us is what we've accepted to be true. And every time we've broken those boundaries, it's because we've been willing to look towards the possibility that we can break those boundaries, that we can break the limitations of what we believe to be possible. And part of that is recognizing where you've done it already. And the more you see that you've done that in places in your life, the more you can open up to the possibility you can do it in other places as well. I've had to have a bit of a jolt. I've had to have somebody really push me on this recently to help me remember, oh, actually, I do know this. And I've come back to exploring, well, how is it that I create those higher timelines? And I've realized for me, I hold the question in my heart. I don't try and figure it out. I just go, how do I create a timeline where such and such happens, where I'm not limited by what somebody has told me is true? And then I sit with that. I don't try and work it out. That would have been old kind of me. I sit with it. And what I notice is I start to have serendipities. I start to remember things. I start to get intuitive nudges. Now, the other thing to remember is when you get those, they're going to feel uncomfortable, right? Because part of creating a new timeline is breaking down the paradigms in your mind that you've accepted to be true. And your mind isn't going to like that. So you'll get a nudge to go do something and your mind's going to go, well, why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense. Well, chances are you're starting to go on the right track. Now you're starting to, tune in to the new timeline that you want, and your mind will have to adapt to that. So it's not comfortable a lot of the time, but you get comfortable with it the more you follow it and the more you recognize that that's the process of creating and manifesting new timelines that are not restricted by the paradigms that you've previously held, as true and been restricted by. So I'm sharing this video perhaps to give some of you hope if you're feeling stuck, right? There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to what we believe is possible. And are you turning towards those exceptions? Are you looking towards them? If you're dealing with a problem in your business, if you're dealing with a chronic health problem and somebody's giving you bad news about it, like, how much are you buying into those things? Because it looks to me like for every single one of those things, there's an exception. And if you're willing to tune towards those exceptions, if you're willing to be proven wrong, if you're willing to have your paradigm broken down and to be in the discomfort of that, you'll start to get nudges from your higher self. And that's how you start to manifest those different timelines. So I hope that's helpful. It's just a little reflection. I'll probably share more about this at some point, but I just wanted to share it this morning because it was so fresh for me. Anyhow, I wish you a good week and sending lots of love. Take care. Bye.